What a weekend we have in front of us. What's going on, guys? And welcome to your WWE Clash and AEW All Out predictions for 2022. We've got a back-to-backer this weekend coming up on Saturday and Sunday. Two major pay-per-views from two big North American competitors, and I have never been happier to be a wrestling fan. It is going to be fun to take a look at both of these shows. One show has nearly triple the amount of matches than the other show, but we really have a lot of good things set up for not only Saturday, but also Sunday at All Out for AEW. So we are here to predict both, and we're also going to talk a little bit about the wrestling news and some of the rumors going around. Big one that dropped today, according to PW Insider, Braun Strowman could be heading back to WWE and might be on Raw this Monday. We've got some news and notes coming out of last night's AEW Dynamite, which we are up here to watch together. We watched the whole CM Punk, John Moxley, Ace Steel thing go down. That was awesome, and now we have the main event finally set for this Sunday. It is going to be a rematch of Punk and Moxley. We'll talk some news and notes coming out of today's media call that Tony Khan held. Had some interesting things to say about WWE, Thunder Rosa, some ratings, things like that. And once we wrap up all that, and we're also going to get into Bobby Fish, some news about him as well. And then we will discuss Clash at the Castle first. We'll be getting into Clash predictions, and then we will be moving into All Out after that. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. Want to thank everybody for being here on a Thursday afternoon. It's very rare that I'm here on a Thursday, so thank you to everyone who is going to join us. I will say hi to everybody in the chat who was here waiting. Do me a favor, though, before we get going here, smash that thumbs up button for me, and if you are not a subscriber, please do. We also have channel memberships available. I'm looking to take on 2 new members today. That would be fantastic. We would reach a milestone and unlock some more stuff that we can do. But if you want to become a member, you can do that by clicking the link below or the link in the description. Speaking of links in the description, the review links to both of these pay-per-views are up on my channel right now, and the links are in the description as well. So go ahead and save Saturday's Clash at the Castle review and give that a like. Do the same thing for AEW All Out on Sunday. And then on Saturday afternoon, in lieu of the Winged Eagle, probably right around the same time we normally come up here for the Winged Eagle, we're just going to be doing a Clash at the Castle review instead. I am on the West Coast, so I'm going to have to be awake at 10 a.m. to start watching the show. And I've currently got the review scheduled for 2 p.m. my time on the West Coast, 5 p.m. East Coast time, I believe. I might adjust that depending on how long this show goes, but as of right now, I know tomorrow we still have Smackdown, but as of right now, there's only 6 matches announced for Clash, so I can't see this thing going too far over the 3-hour mark, even though it's a pretty big show there in Wales. So they might add something tomorrow night on Smackdown. I assume they probably will. I think 6 matches is a little too light for a pay-per-view of this size. They should tack on 1 or 2 or a kickoff show match or something, which I'm sure they will do, but we will predict what we have and what is advertised so far. So it's going to be a weekend, that's for sure, and I'm looking forward to it. I want to go over here to the chat real quick, say hi to everybody, and then we'll start getting into stuff. I want to welcome Red Raven Rucker, Michael Kumo, Chris Miner, JJ Legg. We've got Chris Miner and JJ Legg. JJ Legg, I think you're the first person to ever sign up for memberships, and I think Chris Miner, you're one of the newer ones. So thanks for being here, both of you guys. Nick Musser in the house as well, and Mab. We got Deshaun, we got How Weezy, we got Sane G, we've got the channel members. That's everybody that's here right now. Also, Rodrigo's in the house. Good to see him as always. Lil Justin Lowe is here. David Brown. Barry is in the house. Big J. Shell Shock. Sam. Joe Brill. Chaz Medeiros. Sonic Plays. Ben. Right on. Good to see you guys in here this afternoon. I hope you guys are having a great Thursday, and I hope you have even a better Friday tomorrow, because then it is getting close to Clash. Of course, we already know that Smackdown is taped for tomorrow, so I did not read the spoilers. Maybe they do add a match here on Clash. I kind of forgot that SmackDown has already been pre-taped, so they might stick something else on here. But like I said, 6 matches feels pretty light. Let me switch over to the Clash template, by the way. Get that working, and we're going to be getting into those predictions in just a minute. Thank you for that gift, Chris Miner. Gifted One Good Micro Commentaries memberships. That's awesome. You gifted that to somebody? I'm not sure how the gifts work, dude, but thank you very much, Chris. And I want to do a quick shout out to all of the channel members, starting with the very first few 21 days ago. We are now 3 weeks into the channel memberships, and we've had a lot of people sign up. So I want to thank JJ Legg, Population 420, Stephen Taylor, George Morris, Isaac, Victor Cologne, Ian Dunn, Reese Jones, Red Raven Rucker, Zach Palgett, Spectre, Max Pokebra, K-Dogs Kennel, Nick Musser, Tatanani, John E., Dennett, Michael Cuomo, Chris Barrera, Zane G, Deshaun Robinson, Divine Ricks, Nikita Abalakin, Marcus the Entertainer, Nicole Lansing, Ronnie, Spaz, How Wheezy, Sam Piboon, Joshua Aparicio, Mab, Ian Joe Dunn, C-Mac. Ian, are you in here twice? C-Mac, Jimmy Anderson, Danny Allmark, Mike Witt, Chris Miner. There you are, Zach H. and Al Ramos Pro, who just came in, I believe, yesterday during the Dynamite stream. Thank you to all of the channel members, and we will have a good time with that this weekend as well. Starting in September, we're going to be doing some members-only videos. We're going to be doing some Q&As probably every other month or every 3 months, and then every month we're going to do some sort of a 2-hour watch-along, whether it be a Raw, a Nitro, or a pay-per-view that people request for our Sunday watch-alongs all the time, but the only reason I don't do them is because they're only 2 hours, like the In Your House Canadian Stampedes, Mind Games, One Night Only, shows like that were only 2 hours. I like to keep our Sunday watch-alongs that are for all subscribers to be 3-hour shows or more, and so maybe the shorter ones we're going to start doing for members only. So those are going to be the watch-alongs we'll do for the members, 2-hour watch-alongs of some kind of wrestling show that can be found on Peacock. That will be for the members, as well as the Q&As, and they are going to be making a lot of decisions on what other watch-alongs and things like that we do on the channel. So thank you for sitting through all that bullshit. We'll get into some real stuff now. It's time to talk some wrestling, and it's time to talk Braun Strowman. PW Insider is reporting that Braun Strowman has indeed re-signed with the company and is set to appear on this Monday's Raw from St. Louis, Missouri. Now, Strowman's name has been tossed around ever since Triple H took over. There's been a lot of talk about Braun Strowman coming back basically from the day that he left. He did leverage himself into a pretty good deal there, and during that massive wave of budget cuts that Nick Khan and WWE did to really slash their talent, they cut Braun Strowman, and credit to him, he didn't just go straight to AEW. I thought AEW could do something with him for sure. He's too big and has too much presence with him, about him to just sit there unemployed. So I figured AEW would grab him. They did not. Not sure if that's because he had no interest in them or vice versa or whatever, but he stayed a free agent basically the whole time other than what he was doing with that Control Your Narrative shit. So apparently WWE is going to bring him back in, and he is set to come back on Monday. I'm curious what he will do. I'm curious if he will just come back as Braun Strowman the exact same way he was, or if there's going to be a little bit different of a twist to him or whatnot. But we'll see if we won't know for sure until this is confirmed. But it is making the rounds, and a lot of people are corroborating the story that Strowman is back in the company. And to be honest, this isn't something that would be that shocking. So, I'm not sitting there racking my brain. Oh, this could be true. Could this be true? Could it not be true? I completely believe that it could be true. Triple H is, I think, trying to fix a lot of the damage that was done over the past couple of years and trying to get some of the talent that is still available back that he knows he can do things with, or, just righting some of the Vince wrongs, starting with that wrestling stuff, which is really nice. So we'll keep our eye on the Braun Strowman situation. A lot more going on before we even get to Strowman on Monday. We got the pay-per-view first, so we'll see if, maybe Strowman comes out on Monday to perhaps confront the brand new WWE champion, Drew McIntyre. That could very well be the case. We shall see. Speaking of people coming to WWE, Bobby Fish might be heading back there. His AEW contract is not going to be renewed. No word whether or not it was AEW choosing not to renew it or Fish not wanting it to be renewed, but he has had a lack of matches and TV time. He was on TV recently with Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly as they turned on the Young Bucks and on the Young Bucks anyway. But apparently AEW is not going to have much more use for him, and he is going to be leaving the company. And this makes a lot of sense, as recently he has been complaining a little bit on his podcast about his lack of TV time. He has made some positive tweets and comments lately about Triple H. And last week, when CM Punk got squashed by Jon Moxley, he made several posts about CM Punk shitting on his technique of his kick that he injured himself on in the match with Jon Moxley, saying leave the kick to the professionals and a whole bunch of other stuff. But he kind of didn't let up on that. I even thought that was weird. I'm like, man, is this not going to create any weird backstage tension? This is a guy that's openly making fun of how terrible CM Punk's shit looks. if I was a wrestler, I would consider that to kind of be insulting. Yo, dude, you're fucking with me. So I didn't know if that was, something that Bobby Fish would want to be doing already in a locker room that seems to be quite traumatic and steeped in a lot of turmoil right now. I thought that was interesting that Bobby Fish not only, it's fine to make one little snide comment about the kick, but he kind of kept with it, and he kept going in on CM Punk a little bit. And I want to say it was at least 2 to 4 tweets that referenced how terrible CM Punk's kick looked. So I thought that was weird. Now when you combine that with some of his complaints, with him praising Triple H, him leaving the company is not all that surprising. Bobby Fish is not a young man. I don't think Bobby Fish can jump right on the main roster if he goes back to WWE and be involved in some great angles, especially since Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly aren't even there. But I think what Bobby Fish could do is potentially do some coaching and some work in NXT for Triple H. And I think that's likely. So once his AEW deal finishes, whether he wraps up any business on TV or whether he's just done completely now, we will see. But once all of his AEW obligations are done, expect to see good old Bobby head back to NXT. Of course, by the way, I need to do a sound check on myself. I'm sure if you guys couldn't hear me, you would have told me by now, right? Nice, Chaz. Nice, Chaz. Welcome to the family, courtesy of Chris Miner. That's really cool. I got to read into how those gifts even work. But right on, Chaz. Glad you are here as well. Nice. Oh, Jet the Hawk is here too. Good to see you. Got a lot of monkey wrenches in here as well. That makes me very happy. Please continue to smash that thumbs up button, since today's audience will probably be kind of light for a random Thursday afternoon podcast. We should talk a little bit about last night's Dynamite. We got the confirmation that was rumored to be in terms of the AEW World Title at All Out. Jon Moxley opened up the show. We knew we were going to hear from him, and they did the whole deal where he just cut an amazing promo. Jon Moxley, I think, is on one of the best tears that you can even have in wrestling right now. He's just incredible. He just feels unstoppable, not only on the mic, but in the ring. He has supreme confidence right now. And, he's going to be a tough man to beat clean. Let me put it that way. So Moxley comes out there, shits on CM Punk a little bit, said he's not as bad as he thought he was, and went in on him a little bit, and had in his pocket an open contract for anybody to come down and sign it, and he will face them at All Out. He doesn't care if they work in the company or not, or who it is. He will face anybody. He's just going to leave the contract right there, and he leaves. And the contract sits there for several moments, just sits there by itself in the ring until we see a Steel come down to the ring and pick it up. Now, of course, a Steel-trained CM Punk. I didn't even recognize that was a Steel. I just thought he was some member of the Doctor team or something when we saw him last week. So when he came out and grabbed it and put it in his pocket, I'm like, oh, okay. And then when Excalibur kind of explained it, I'm like, oh, shit, that makes more sense. So he's going to take that back to CM Punk, and we kind of knew where that was headed. My only question is that contract that Jon Moxley had in his pocket sat there in the ring for I don't know how long before a Steel walked out there and picked it up. You have an entire locker room of wrestlers who claim that the only reason they're in this business is so they can be world champion. Many of these wrestlers will never get that opportunity. They just won't, unless they fall ass backwards into one, like they win some random battle royal, or they win a casino ladder match, or if somebody has an open challenge or a contract just waiting for anybody to put their name down on. How is the locker room back there? Anybody who's watching this on the monitor, anybody who happens to be at Gorilla, anybody who's not in catering or not taking a shit or not taking a shower and is aware of what's going on in the ring, how are these people not trampling each other to get out there to that ring to grab that contract and sign it? Think of the hell these wrestlers put their bodies through in Money in the Bank matches, or any match to where you can get a title shot, six-pack challenge matches, gauntlet matches, Royal Rumbles. The pain and suffering and abuse that a wrestler will put their body through just for the opportunity to get a chance to wrestle for the world championship means that contract sitting there with nobody running out there makes no sense. Every wrestler, no matter which company you're in, you are going to fight hard as hell and do whatever you can to get that title shot because that's your one opportunity. How are all those wrestlers back there, sitting there, not moving? Instead of picking up chairs and starting how come there's not a Royal Rumble backstage at Gorilla in the entranceway, in the aisleway? There should be like several brawls going on throughout the arena of wrestlers trying to get out there to that contract. And, then maybe somebody unexpected like a Dante Martin or a Fuego del Sol or somebody like that is able to break free from the pack and run in the ring and sign the contract. I didn't understand that. And I also get that AEW is trying to tell the story of nobody is going to want to mess with Jon Moxley in this state of mind when he's so confident and he's so intense. But that doesn't mean anything. When Brock Lesnar has been WWE champion, people still compete in the Royal Rumble. It's not like nobody shows up for the Royal Rumble. Oh, I don't want to face Brock. Even Austin Theory, he's got that briefcase. He was teasing Roman and Brock. Teasing both of them. The two guys in the business that you probably don't want to tease or don't want to face for the title. He's teasing them both at the same time. So I don't think anybody is above a wrestler not wanting to face them. Yes, it might suck to face this guy because he's going to kick the shit out of me, but there's also the chance I could become world champion. And I think that's a risk I'm willing to take. So I thought that made no sense. I don't understand why the talent, wasn't bum rushing the ring to get to that contract, but instead Ace Steel comes down and grabs it, shoves it in his pocket, and storms off. So we kind of knew where that was going. Of course, we come back later on in the night. CM Punk comes out. This whole promo was so damn good. I don't know why it wasn't the main event. I understand you want to do Kenny and Ospreay in the main event. That makes total sense. But what a way to close out All Out, to have CM Punk cutting that promo in the audience, standing up on the balcony like that. I'll be there at All Out, and then you fade to black, and wow, I think that would have been a great way to end the show. But Punk comes out. He looks dejected. He looks like he's about to retire. He's got tears in his eyes. His body language is just really poor. He looks weak. He looks frail, fragile. All of those things until Ace Steel comes out and cuts one fucking hell of a promo and actually drops an F-bomb right after AEW had specifically told talent to watch their cursing in their promos because they've been getting some heat from the network. And this guy drops an F-bomb. Apparently, Ace Steel was internally fined for that F-bomb, and his fine was donated to charity. But the promo he cut on Punk kind of psyching him up. He gave him that Mickey speech, that Mickey Rocky speech. Get up, you son of a bitch, because Mickey loves you. And he slapped CM Punk right in the face. Get the fuck up, or whatever he said. Dropped an F-bomb. And that slap was really kind of it shook everything out of CM Punk. Even the redness in his eyes, he looked like he was high. Even the redness and wateriness in his eyes was like instantly gone when he was slapped. It like woke him up. Next thing you know, he's back to the old CM Punk on the mic, and he is talking, he is moving, he is jiving, he claims his foot is 100%. He goes up into the crowd, and he declares that he will be facing Jon Moxley at All Out, and that allowed Jon Moxley to then come back out later on and cut a promo as well. But the way that whole CM Punk and Ace Steel stuff went down, I would have loved it if that was the main event. So we did get that on Wednesday. I thought it was all very good, although I question why the entire roster wasn't running out to that ring to get that title shot against Jon Moxley. That's the only real question I have there. So that sets up what should be a pretty interesting main event for All Out. And we'll be talking about that later because CM Punk's got this foot. I don't know how he's going to beat a guy that's on a roll as much as Moxley is completely clean. So we'll have some stuff to talk about later, I agree with you, Forbidden Pork Chop. This weekend is going to be amazing. We got NXT, don't forget. I'm not doing any predictions for NXT UK, or did that already happen? I think that already happened. Tyler Bate did finally win that. Or no, maybe that is. I don't know. Worlds Collide is coming up. That's what it is. Tyler Bate has finally won the NXT UK title that he's been carrying around on TV, right? He's been carrying around. He finally won that. That match is aired, but they got Worlds Collide coming up. It's Carmelo Hayes and Ricochet. They got some good matches for that. Unfortunately, I'm kind of out of the loop in NXT, but that's another thing we got going on. It's going to be a big weekend for wrestling for sure. Also, Tony Khan held a media conference call today, and had some interesting things to come out of that. I wanted to read a couple news and notes from that because one of the things he said regarding Thunder Rosa I found to be quite interesting, although I have now lost. There we go. Some of these news and notes come courtesy of Fightful. One of the things that Tony Khan said that was getting some traction online was regarding Thunder Rosa. And Tony Khan said that he strongly disagrees with the criticism of Thunder Rosa and CM Punk's promo time for their title situations. He said, if he's speaking honestly, an 8-minute promo with CM Punk is going to draw more than an 8-minute promo with Thunder Rosa. And that's what he books for. Tony Khan then confirmed to Fightful Select that AEW learned of Thunder Rosa, or learned of her injury just a few hours before that promo. So they didn't have an opportunity to really work out a larger promo in that amount of time. So I think that's maybe where the question stemmed from, was last Wednesday when we saw Rosa forfeit the title. It was really out of the blue. It was out of nowhere. It was backstage. It was Tony Schiavone. You could see instantly that something was wrong with Thunder Rosa, and she was tearing up and very emotional, and she had to forfeit the title due to injury. And a lot of fans were like, what the hell, man? You give CM Punk this whole big grand situation in the middle of the ring, and Thunder Rosa has to do hers backstage. I can understand that, but I can also understand if you just found out about this, you don't really have time to rework the whole show around some long 15-minute segment with Thunder Rosa. You just got to do what you got to do. Although I'm not sure if Tony Khan really wants to be that honest sometimes. Sometimes when he is that honest, that can draw some criticism. So if he's saying nobody wants to hear what Thunder Rosa has to say, I mean, I'm not going to lie, CM Punk is a better promo cutter than Thunder Rosa, but Thunder Rosa and all women's wrestlers and men's wrestlers, those who don't have the same promo level skills as others, can make up for it in other ways. And Thunder Rosa is pretty beloved by the wrestling audience despite the reputation she might be garnering behind the scenes. So those were interesting comments, let's just say that. He also talked about a potential Forbidden Door arrangement with WWE in the future, and he said under the last regime, meaning Vince, that he actually was kind of optimistic that maybe that could happen. But now that Triple H has taken over, he says he's less optimistic because of how they have treated him. So I guess since Triple H has taken over, any contact AEW has had with WWE apparently has not been good. He's probably referencing the contract tampering stuff, and maybe that's what has soured him on that. But the entire media call is available. You can listen to the whole thing several places. I found the entire thing on Fightful's YouTube channel. It's for free. It's up there. It's about an hour long. You can listen to all of it. Nothing too earth-shattering coming out of it, but I thought some of those comments were at least worth mentioning. And it was a pretty good listen and pretty quick as well. So that kind of does it for the news and notes. I just want to talk about a couple of tidbits before we started getting into these big pay-per-view predictions. And we are going to start with Clash at the Castle, coming to us live on Saturday morning for me. I guess if you're on the East Coast, I think this is going to start at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's going to start at 10 a.m. for me. So finally, I'm so glad that our fans, overseas and in Europe are able to watch a pay-per-view at regular time while us here in the States have to do a jacked schedule type of thing. But it's not even that bad. I think, over in the UK and stuff, you guys got to stay up until the wee hours of the morning to watch our shows, where we just have to watch them earlier than we normally would, like 10 a.m. for me, 1 p.m. on the East Coast. So that's a lot easier to deal with than, what you guys have to do pretty much on a monthly basis and have had to do for years. So I'm very happy they're getting a big show here. And I really hope that WWE gives them a good one. I worry it's only 6 matches long, and I've always worried about overseas shows until Crown Jewel started happening, that basically those used to be just glorified house shows with WrestleMania effects and a WrestleMania set, that type of thing. Nothing too crazy really happens, and that was the case for a long time until the Saudi Arabia show started. When the first couple of Crown Jewels were kind of just meaningless, I think Saudi Arabia took notice of that and was like, hey, you have to start giving us some good stuff. Then we started seeing some title changes on the show, and now things actually do happen over there. So I don't want to see them just go through the motions here and give the crowd a good show. They should give them more than that, and I think they are set up for an amazing opportunity here in the main event with Drew McIntyre. It would be such a great full circle moment for him, the way he had to win the title from Brock Lesnar in the Performance Center. And whenever you go back and watch that footage, it's hard to watch. It's sad. I'm never going to go deliberately watch it, but anytime they show it in a replay, it's just tough to watch that. I mean, he was set to have this big moment. He was so excited. When the pandemic hit, he was over there in Scotland, I think, filming a bunch of shit. I mean, he was about to be crowned at WrestleMania, and he was on his, victory path there from the Royal Rumble all the way through WrestleMania to have this grand moment, and it was snatched away from him at the last minute, and it's just been heartbreaking. But he still put the work in. Drew's been phenomenal during this time, and he's made the best of his situation. And now that we found ourselves on the other side of the pandemic, we got a big stadium show here. Drew is set against another big monster like Brock in Roman Reigns, who's been champion for 2 years and has currently unified the 2 titles. Huge crowd, home field advantage for Drew. I'd pull the trigger. And another thing we have to think about and take into consideration about not only Clash of the Champions, Clash of the Castle, but also All Out. We should call it, that's exactly why I was calling it Castlevania, is because I was getting confused. But one thing we should consider with both of these shows is that what happens on one could directly affect the other. I think Tony Khan and AEW are going to pay big attention to what happens here at the Clash at the Castle, because if Drew McIntyre, let's say, does win in some grand dramatic fashion and has some amazing victory over Roman Reigns, whether it's a shocking victory like a Goldberg and Brock Survivor Series 2016 squash, which I actually wouldn't even hate, or if it's a good hard-fought contest with a dramatic finish and Drew wins, beats Roman clean, has the great moment in front of his home field fans, and it's going to explode Twitter. Everybody's going to be talking about Drew's win, Roman losing for the first time in a couple of years, what this means, what we're going to see on Raw, or even if they go in another direction and they factor in a cash-in from Austin Theory, who I believe might have his first name back. I know Matt Riddle does. Or Tyson Fury could also interfere in this thing. It's been confirmed that he's going to be at ringside for this show, and I hate him. I don't want to see him involved with anything in wrestling. I don't hate him personally. I just hate him involved in wrestling. I just have no desire to see Tyson Fury at all. So maybe he could get involved in this thing, or maybe they could run some sort of a double swerve where, maybe not a swerve, but they run some sort of an angle, I should say, where this match somehow separates the titles. I've mentioned that a couple of times, whether Paul Heyman finds a contractual loophole or whether Theory cashes in, making everything a 2 out of 3 falls or something like that, to where both belts are on the line. They could maybe work something like that in last minute to allow McIntyre to win the WWE title, but Roman keeps the Universal. But even if they did that, I think it would take away from Drew's big moment if there's a big decision at the end. Oh, by the way, yes, you won, but you only win one of those belts, not both. That would, I think, put a damper on it. But whatever they do, if it's major and it's done well and it's executed well and it's booked well and the match is good and Drew McIntyre redeems himself and gets his WrestleMania 36 do-over and it's an amazing success. And over on the AEW side of things, internally, the plan is to have CM Punk beat Jon Moxley and win the title over there as well. They're going to have a tall order. They're going to have a lot to live up to and a lot to follow if McIntyre beats somebody like Roman Reigns, ends his 2-year run in grand fashion in an amazing match that the internet just can't shut up about. Does Tony Khan then call an audible or say, I don't want to do the title change now because there's no way ours is going to look as good as theirs? Or will it have the opposite effect? Will whatever they do in the main event, Roman Reigns even keeps the title, opening up the door for All Out to have a big title change in their main event? Or maybe Drew does win the title, but maybe it's just not as great. It's cool and everything, but maybe it's just not executed as well as everybody hoped. And Tony Khan sees this and says, oh, we can do better than that. And they go out and do. And this is why competition can be so cool. I'm not sure how big of a fan I am of having both companies having a big pay-per-view on the same weekend. I kind of wish they would stay out of each other's way in that regard. But in a situation like this where you have 2 big championship matches in 2 days, you got to think that both of them are going to be paying attention. Maybe even Triple H is walking around to some of his AEW people, talking to Rhea Ripley or talking to Zelina Vega, and like, hey, what's the word on the street over there? Are they gonna belt up Punk tomorrow? I'd like to know that going into what we do, try to one-up them or upstage them or something like that. So, that's what competition can bring, is having Triple H say, oh, I know they got a big pay-per-view tomorrow. I want to make sure this show is better. And then Tony Khan the next day can say, they had a pretty good show. I want to make sure mine is better. That's how wrestling fans benefit from competition. And like I said, so many fans are wrapped up in their tribal ass monkey shit that they are too stupid to realize how awesome this is. So I think that both of these companies having a show this weekend could push the other to present the best show possible, because at the end of the weekend, fans are going to compare these shows. If we have two title changes, AEW and WWE, fans are going to compare those two title changes. Which one was better? Which one would you like more? Now, forget about the tribal ass monkeys, because no matter which one was better, they're going to pick the one they want. Doesn't matter which one is better. But for the rest of us who actually think for ourselves, we can look at those two matches and say, okay, Drew and Roman had the better match, the bigger moment, bigger crowd, just felt bigger, But if it's a big flop and, no matter what they do, the match just comes off like a fart in church, well, then you got AEW, and Punk can do something major to beat Jon Moxley, like I'm going to talk about later. I think he's going to have to cheat or something and possibly turn heel, some big swerve, something like that, to where maybe the match itself isn't as dramatic, but the swerve that happens at the end overtakes and dominates and takes away all the headlines from Drew McIntyre. Because up until Sunday night, if McIntyre wins the title, he's going to be the top trend on Twitter for all of the rest of Saturday and most of Sunday until you get to All Out. And if the All Out can do something bigger than what WWE did the day before, then they take over all the headlines heading into Monday Night Raw. That can be fun, right? So look at it like that. Think about it like that as we're thinking about these shows. I want to answer these super chats, but I will in 1 minute. We're going to get through the Clash at the Castle predictions first, and then we'll catch up on the super chats and the chat stuff, and then we'll move into All Out. That's how it's going to work. Sound good to you guys? Let's start with Clash at the Castle predictions. Like I said, I only have 6 matches written down for this thing. They could tack one on tonight or tomorrow night after the taped Smackdown, or run some sort of an angle. I don't know. Or just announce something on social media, on Saturday or on Friday or Saturday ahead of the show. We will see what happens. But here's what we have for Clash so far. It's going to be Edge teaming up with Rey Mysterio to take on the Judgment Day. That's kind of a cool throwback tag team from the good old days of SmackDown, when Edge and Rey were part of the original 6, or the Big 6, or the SmackDown 6, I should call it. I'm going to go Edge and Rey Mysterio on this one. I think they will pick up the win over Judgment Day. I think anything else that happens between these men and women and Rhea Ripley in terms of storyline, I think will continue on television. So if you're going to do a Dominic turn, which I still think needs to happen at some point, I don't think you do it here in a tag team setting with Edge and Rey Mysterio. I think Dominic turning on Rey kind of needs to be them by themselves. I don't think Edge needs to have anything to do with this. And that turn, if it ever happens, we've been talking about it for a year now, so it may never happen. But if they do it, Dominic turning on Rey is something I could see happening on Raw or somewhere else, not potentially in the first match of the show. And I really think this match could open up the show. I think Edge could be the first person that Wales crowd sees. So, or Rey. Actually, Rey could be, and Edge could come out next. But I kind of see that match as the opener. And I think Edge and Rey Mysterio would get the win. It will be interesting to see if Beth Phoenix is going to be there. I think she probably will. And I think there will be some sort of a scenario, if she's there, where she will intercept Rhea Ripley and prevent her from doing something. Or maybe Dominic even gets in the middle of that and intercepts Rhea Ripley. Or maybe the two of them have some sort of sexual encounter. I think that would be really fun. I don't know what's going on between Rhea Ripley and Dominic, but I think it would be fun if it took a turn for the kinky. You know what I mean? We will see. But I'm going Edge and Rey Mysterio to win that match. 6-women tag, Bianca Belair, Raw Women's Champion, teaming up with Alexa Bliss and Asuka to take on Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky. Well, based on the fact that Dakota Kai and Io Sky lost the tag team title tournament final to Aaliyah and Raquel Rodriguez, I'm pretty sure Aaliyah will not be topping the next PWI Women's 500, based on all the comments surrounding her after that match. But since Dakota Kai and Io Sky were rumored and favored and assumed to win this thing, as a fly's buzzing around my head, and they lost in kind of a surprising upset there, I got to go with Bayley and company to win this. I think Alexa, Asuka, Bianca, there could be some dissension there. Alexa Bliss could potentially turn back heel or kind of go back to being old Alexa. I know Triple H loves Asuka. Could be a good way to move her on to something else, maybe have her turn heel or something, or just maybe have the baby faces have a little bit of dissension or some miscommunication, allowing Bayley and her crew, the more cohesive unit, to capitalize and get the victory. I think it's a win that they need because they just showed up at SummerSlam, formed this faction. Bayley's first match back in the ring was not good. The tag team title tournament final last week was not very good. I think these women need something positive to happen to them, and you got 6 pros in there, so hopefully this match will come off okay, and I'm picking Bayley and company to win that. Sheamus challenging Gunther for the Intercontinental title. It's my sleeper match on the show. I'm low-key or high-key looking forward to this one more than anything because these guys are just going to beat the shit out of each other. They're going to beat the shit out of each other, son. I'm telling you. It's going to be beat red. Sheamus is already so fucking white. He's clear. And when Gunther starts chopping his pale-ass skin to death, it's going to look like hamburger meat. It's going to be great. And this thing is going to be brutal. And I really hope that this is something they can continue with Sheamus and Gunther, because I really think it could be a fun program, a fun feud, and I have the utmost respect for Sheamus. I have really enjoyed his work over the past couple of years. Basically, ever since he formed the Bar with Cesaro, from the Bar to present day, I've been big team Sheamus. I just really think he's great, and he's a good worker. Doesn't get enough credit for it. He's been consistent. He is a lot like R-Truth in the fact that he's ageless. I mean, Sheamus looks very little. He doesn't look very much different at all from when he first came in all those years ago. And this is a guy that's in his 40s now and looks like he did when he was in his early 30s, and that's incredible. At the end of the day, though, I really like Gunther as the Intercontinental Champion. If Triple H is ever going to do any championship belt title redesigns or bring back some old school stuff, I would love for Gunther to be the guy to be champion when all that goes down. And like a lot of fans, I am really looking ahead, maybe a little too far ahead, but I'm looking at that Survivor Series date. We still don't know what WWE is going to do with Survivor Series this year because I firmly believe that fighting for brand supremacy is fucking stupid, and there's no reason that any wrestler should give a rat's ass which brand he works for and should have no desire to fight for that brand in the current state of what the WWE brand split is. So Survivor Series might have a whole new take this year. I really hope that Triple H does not continue that Raw and SmackDown stuff, but if they do, and they go the same direction that they have gone in other years where the two champions from the different brands face each other, then you've got a potential Gunther and Bobby Lashley IC and US title match for Survivor Series, and I'm really wanting that to happen. But it might not even be necessary. We might find another way to get that match, and plus, if they don't separate out Roman Reigns' championships, then I don't know how you do that theme at Survivor Series if you still have the unified belts. So, unless you unify everything at Survivor Series and Gunther and Lashley face each other in a unification match. I don't know, but probably not. So, since I want that match to happen, I also want Gunther to beat Sheamus here. I think Sheamus should do the honors for Gunther. I think Gunther should go on a major role. I would love for him to have a long run with that Intercontinental title. We have not had a long-running IC champion in a long time. Last time I remember they tried to do a long run with anybody would have been like MVP's U.S. title run. Didn't he hold it for like a year? Dean Ambrose might have also held the U.S. title for a very, very long time. I want to see Gunther do something similar with the IC. So that means he's got to beat Sheamus. And that's what I hope happens at Clash. I'm going with Gunther in that match. Matt Riddle and Seth Rollins. Holy shit. So these two guys were brawling in the parking lot on Monday. We saw the interview they did at the arena where after they were off air or they weren't shown on screen anymore, Seth and Riddle continue the trash talk. Seth brings up Riddle's family and his divorce and some of that, and Riddle just goes off and he goes, "Where you at, bro? I'm gonna fuck you up. Forget beating you up, I'm gonna fuck you up." And Riddle, for the first time, gets deliriously mad. And I've been calling for this for so long. It's one of the same things I want to see happen to Bianca Belair one day. And I said all along with Riddle, as much as I like him, I said he's just a little bit too on the goofy side. I don't even mind the goofy. I'm cool with the scooter. I'm cool with how silly Riddle can be, because you can combine the goofy with the tough. Kurt Angle did it, and he was a master at it. And I think Riddle could be the same way. Rob Van Dam had a little bit of that in him too, but Angle was a little bit more over the top. Now, he would change. Now, Angle would get less goofy as the years went on, but even when he was the kazoo, tiny cowboy hat, guitar-playing weirdo, he was still tough as nails in the ring. So, despite Matt Riddle's silliness, he's tough as shit, but I thought the silliness was a little bit too much, and I said if he could back off the silliness and add a little bit more intensity and realism and anger and, focus, I think he would be really tough to stop. So now that he has finally snapped, seemingly, and he is out for blood and he's ready to murder Seth Rollins at the pay-per-view, that could be a really interesting riddle. So we'll see how this goes. We'll see if Seth just did that to maybe set a trap for Riddle to make him so angry that he's not going to be thinking clearly, and Seth is going to be able to take advantage of some sort of mistake that Riddle makes because he's so blinded by anger. I don't know. When you look at this match, Seth Rollins just got done doing a ton of jobs to Cody Rhodes. When you look at what they've done with Riddle, they postponed the SummerSlam match so they could get more out of the build, more meat out of it, and they've really made it personal now. We've had several pull-apart brawls. These guys are talking about each other's wives and shit, which is kind of what stemmed from the original heat between them, the real-life heat they had to begin with. And all that's being tied in now. You don't have an angle like this where these guys are brawling and being pulled apart and talking about each other's wives and have one match. So whatever happens here has got to be just the first match in this saga of Rollins and Riddle. So what I have to do is decide who's going to win the first match in the saga. And since Seth Rollins has really been Mr. Job Boy and went way out of his way to put Cody over as best as anybody could, I feel like you got to reward Rollins with some sort of a big victory in a big arena. So I think that Rollins will win this match. I'm going to predict Seth Rollins to beat Riddle. I think Riddle will wind up beating Rollins. I think they're going to have another match, probably a gimmick match of some kind. We just had Hell in the Cell, so that won't be coming up in October. Who knows what they're doing here in September and October? I don't even know. But whatever the next pay-per-view is, that will probably be your gimmick match. That will probably be your no DQ, your last man standing, your cage, anything like that. I can see Riddle and Seth doing at the next pay-per-view, where maybe Riddle eventually wins the blow-off between these two guys. But for Castlevania, I'm going to go Seth Rollins to beat Riddle in that match. Liv Morgan defending the SmackDown Women's title against Shayna Baszler. This one is weird. It depends on if Ronda Rousey is going to be there. I don't know if Ronda is going to want to get involved in this. They are going to have an angle tomorrow night on SmackDown where I think Ronda is reinstated somehow, but I don't know if that will be enough for her to make the trip all the way over here, all the way to Wales, just to get involved in this match or not. I don't think Shayna Baszler would necessarily need any help from Liv Morgan or just help from Ronda Rousey to beat Liv Morgan. The only thing I can think of is if they inject Ronda Rousey in here as a way to keep the title on Liv Morgan, because I just don't think one-on-one with Triple H in control that he's going to book Liv Morgan to beat Shayna Baszler clean. I just don't see a universe where that's possible. So if Liv Morgan retains the title here, it's going to have to be due to some sort of an interference deal with Ronda Rousey. There was a stare down between Rousey and Shayna on that one SmackDown episode, right? Or that one TV episode that they did. So maybe Ronda is still upset with Liv Morgan, and maybe she wants to be the one to beat Liv. So maybe Ronda interferes, causes a DQ, and it was like, sorry, Shayna, I can't let you beat her. I want her. I want to take that title from her. And then Ronda winds up beating Liv Morgan for the title, setting up Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. And that is what I would actually like more, to be honest. I would actually love it if you held off Shayna Baszler winning the WWE Women's title until she beats Ronda for it. That might be more fun if you booked Baszler down the line. But she's got the title match here. I think it's going to be in a crowd that's going to be pro Shayna, because the UK crowd seems to like NXT and stuff. You know, they're clued into all that stuff, and they remember Shayna's run there. So do I. So I think I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to pick Shayna Baszler to beat Liv Morgan for the SmackDown Women's title. I'm saying this because it's Triple H in control. Triple H was there when Shayna Baszler had her long run in NXT. He knows what she's capable of. He knows what she can do. WWE's made zero use of her since she got called up. So maybe this is Triple H's way of having Shayna win the title. And now you've got now you still have Shayna and Ronda. You still do that match, but now it could be potentially Ronda beating Shayna for it instead of vice versa. So I'm going to go ahead and end my sister's run. Sorry, sis. Love you. But I think enough's enough with this, and I'm ready for some badasses to be holding that championship. Liv Morgan, I think, is a great role model for the kids and stuff like that, but she's not a really great role model to me. So I'm going to predict Shayna Baszler to beat Liv Morgan for the SmackDown Women's title, even though I fully admit I could be way wrong on that. Roman Reigns defending the Universal and WWE Unified Undisputed Heavyweight Galaxy Championship, whatever it's called, against Drew McIntyre. This one's going to be tough. I feel like the way it's been booked, all of the video packages and the recap packages and all the talk about Drew McIntyre and his redemption, they're really setting this up as a big match. It doesn't feel like it's a match that's being phoned in, because a lot of these overseas shows in the past, they could set up a big main event match, but really at the end, you're not really expecting the champion to drop the title. I think with Roman Reigns, they've now found themselves in a weird position because they insisted on unifying these belts at WrestleMania, which now puts you in a situation where you got to try to get at least one of these off of Roman. But if the plan was to keep Roman unstoppable and unbeatable and have him go on this long run for several years, how are you going to do that now? A couple of weeks ago, we saw Karrion Kross return to TV, and I was like, oh, cool. Maybe they'll insert him into this match, and then Roman can lose the belt or one of the belts without even being pinned if Drew and Karrion pin each other. But Kross wasn't added. It's just McIntyre. And I think if WWE really wanted to shake things up, I would pull the trigger on a title change here. I know a lot of fans don't like Drew. I personally do. I think Drew really, really works hard. I think Drew is always there, always ready to do business. He is always showing up in shape. He has a lot of enthusiasm in his promos and what he does. And he was a good guy to choose to put over Brock Lesnar, because back then fans really liked Drew McIntyre. That moment he had at the Royal Rumble, claymoring him and eliminating him and all of that, it was setting up a grand moment for him at WrestleMania 36. And if McIntyre would have had a crowd of 70,000 to watch him win the title from Brock Lesnar, maybe his title run could have gone better, because arguably that pandemic period from 2020 to 2022, those 2 years here were probably creatively the worst years in WWE's history, and Drew McIntyre was right in the middle of that. So a lot of the criticism just trickled down onto him, and I don't really believe any of that was his fault. I have said even before Roman, a couple of years ago, before Roman came back as the tribal chief and people were still shitting on Roman for winning all the time and being Cena 2.0 and all of that, I always questioned why Drew wasn't put in that position. I'm like, look at him physically. If you ask me, Drew's even better looking than Roman. I mean, he's bigger, he looks stronger, he's more cut. He just looks a little bit more badass, just a touch. I'm not saying Roman doesn't look badass, because Roman actually absolutely does. But I thought Drew looked every much the part as Roman did. So why is Roman getting this spot over Drew when I thought Drew was equally capable, equally good in the ring, has the same size, maybe even a little bit more, and he just really, really looks like a legitimate badass, and I thought he would have made a great guy to be WWE champion. So when they finally pulled the trigger on him, I was happy. However, it came at the worst time in WWE's history with the pandemic. But Drew managed his way through it. He made the best of it. He wasn't shy about saying that it disappointed him, but at the same time, he didn't let it get him down, and he worked his ass off. So they've set him up now for a potential do-over. It's all here. The table is set. It's going to be hard to find another opponent like Brock Lesnar for you to beat, to get that level of holy shit, he beat an unbeatable man type of thing. And you've got it set up here with Roman Reigns. There has been some internal talk in WWE about potentially taking or ending Roman Reigns' run. So it just depends on what they could do here. There's a lot I think they could do. You got Tyson Fury, who's going to be at ringside, who was teased that he's wanted a match with Drew McIntyre in the past. You have Theory running around there with that briefcase. Don't forget. You have the Usos. You have Sami Zayn. You have a lot of possibilities here in terms of who could interfere in this thing or who could screw somebody. There's a lot you could do. And like I said, you could even throw a swerve in there if Theory tried to cash in and then you did something where you made it a triple threat and then the titles were defended separately. That would have to all be done last minute, and it would be really tough to pull that off. I think if this moment is going to be about Drew, then it needs to be about Drew. And as much as I would love to see WWE find a way to keep the Universal title on Roman Reigns and just split these belts off and let Drew take the WWE title to Raw, and Roman can continue his 2+ year run as Universal Champion and try to approach Hogan or Bruno level, I would love nothing more than to see that. But I also have to be realistic and understand that that's probably just not going to be in the cards. There's a lot of plans for Roman in the future. Roman might be facing The Rock next year at WrestleMania right here in LA, and a lot of fans believe that if he faces The Rock, they don't need the title. I think they do. I'm in the minority on that. A lot of, they're too big, they don't need the title. I'm like, I think the title would elevate the whole thing. I mean, if The Rock, the biggest movie star in the world, who doesn't need to come back, he's got billions of dollars, is going to come back and wrestle, yeah, damn right I want a title shot. I'd like to win the title one more time. Maybe he challenges Roman and Roman beats him, or who knows. But I'm actually okay with the title being involved in the Roman Reigns Rock match, provided there's at least 2 world titles, which means between now and then, you got to figure out a way to get these things separated. So you can take a lot of that in consideration. Tyson Fury, Austin Theory, the Usos, Sami Zayn. There was another big wild card that I'm forgetting that I thought could also get involved in this that I was going to mention a minute ago, and now it has escaped me. But there was something else I thought could potentially happen in the Drew and Roman match that could screw Drew McIntyre or whatnot. So basically, do you want to end Roman Reigns' run here? Is that where you want to do it? Another thing that Roman could do, or you could technically do with WWE, if you did beat him here and then Roman Reigns went on to win the title back down the road or win one of the championships back or something like that, where he goes into WrestleMania next year as champion again, you could do the deal where he's been undefeated on U.S. soil for 3 years, 4 years. You could do that. That would be something. But there's so many people that I would like to see in line to beat Roman for the title. I would love to see Kevin Owens beat him for the title. I would love to see Cody beat him for the title. So that's why I think I want to have my cake and eat it too. I want to see Drew McIntyre have his moment, because I think that would create a great moment not only for him, but for that crowd. And it would create a great moment for WWE to refer back to, one of their best shows overseas, and an audience that deserves it more than any other audience in the world, because they've been so loyal to the wrestling product and haven't gotten a lot of stuff in their own home area there. So I think the table is set for all of that to be a great moment. And if you do anything else other than that, I think that crowd's going to be a little bit disappointed. If Roman Reigns spears and pins Drew McIntyre and celebrates in front of that crowd, I mean, he's going to get booed. That's his job. He's a heel, but I just don't know if that's what you would do to that crowd. I don't know. So at the end of the day, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I can't believe I'm predicting this. I did not think I would be predicting Roman Reigns to drop the title anytime soon. But if I'm WWE, I make a splash here. I have a big statement win. Give Drew another opportunity. Here, take the ball and run with it with an audience. We gave you the same scenario you had at WrestleMania 36. You beat somebody that many people thought you would never beat, and you did it in amazing fashion, in dominant fashion. And last week, I even pitched the idea of Drew McIntyre just catching Roman Reigns off guard with an early Claymore to where he can't recover, and Drew McIntyre squashes Roman Reigns in the same amount of time that Moxley squashed CM Punk. A lot of fans would freak out, they ruined Roman Reigns. No, they didn't. Roman Reigns has built himself up to the star level to where he can survive any loss, just like Brock Lesnar could. Everybody thought Brock Lesnar was ruined when Goldberg beat him in 2016. No, he wasn't. That just made the whole thing really interesting, because it was a shock. You did not expect to see somebody like Brock get beat like that. And our jaws hit the floor. It was the talk of the town, so much buzz. Nobody could shut up about it. And the two of them went on to have a pretty decent program where Brock won the title back, or where Roman. Yeah, Brock won the title back from Goldberg. So you do the same thing here with Roman Reigns. You know, Paul Heyman and Roman just come to TV next week when they're back in the States. I got caught off guard. I had food poisoning. I ate the shitty food over there, and McIntyre hit me with a sucker punch. And yeah, you caught me. You got lucky, but you can't do that again or whatever. You just set up a rematch. It's not going to harm Roman's star power at all. Not after you're just undefeated and tearing through and just beating everybody on the roster for 2+ years. You can afford a loss. You can afford a quick loss. You can afford a squash. It ain't going to do shit to the level of star power you have. So I wouldn't even rule out McIntyre doing that. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go ahead and pick him to walk out with at least one of those championships on Saturday. I think this is the opportunity to do it. And if I'm Triple H, I'm just doing it because WWE has really been criticized for not building enough stars. And I think since Drew has kind of already been there and he's already, quote unquote, quite credible enough to beat Roman Reigns for the title, then I would go ahead and do it. If you don't do it with him, do it with Kevin Owens, do it with somebody, and we will see. Like I said, Sami Zayn could get involved in this and screw up, cost Roman Reigns the title somehow, and there could be hell to pay when you get back here in the States where the bloodline completely annihilates Sami, and then maybe Kevin Owens comes out to save him, something like that. So we will see where they go with it, but that's what we got for Clash at the Castle. Just to recap, Edge and Rey over Judgment Day, Bayley and company in the 6-women tag. I've got Shayna Baszler winning the title from Liv Morgan. I've got Gunther retaining the IC title over Sheamus. Seth Rollins to defeat Matt Riddle, and Drew McIntyre to beat Roman Reigns for the WWE title. Somehow, some way, maybe Drew even walks out of there with only one title if they run some sort of a crazy angle right before the match or during the show. I think that's very, very possible. So there you go. There's the Clash in a nutshell. We will move on to All Out now, but before we do, let me cruise over here to the chat. Excuse me, I have a stuffy nose for some reason, and answer some super chats that I missed earlier. I know there's one coming in from Zane G that I missed for $10. Thank you very much, dude. What I don't understand was Thunder Rosa's promo was done backstage, where TK could have given her a promo in the ring, Look no further than Edge, Daniel Bryan, or even Paige. No, I understand that, Zane, totally. I think Tony Khan's reasonings that they just found out about the injury made it so where they didn't have time to write anything major, but I think they could have at least found a little bit of time for her to get out to the ring to do that rather than backstage. So yes, I think they could have figured out something to do in the ring, but also at the end of the day, that might be not totally necessary. I understand that it creates the perception that the men's stuff is more important than the women's stuff or whatever. I get that. So they should have maybe worked something out to where they at least get 5 minutes and she comes out to the ring and forfeits the title. That way she can get some support for the audience. Probably very good for her. Very good to hear that type of stuff from the audience who just wishes you to get better and get back in the ring as soon as possible. Yeah, they could have done that with her. But at the same time, Edge and Daniel Bryan and Paige, those aren't the same situations. Thunder Rosa isn't retiring. Thunder Rosa is just injured for a couple of months. There's going to be an interim champion. Tony Khan's not even taking the belt off of her. They're going to crown an interim champion. So Edge, had to hang it up for 10 years, and Daniel Bryan kind of retired, and so did Paige. So those are way different, I think, than Thunder Rosa. This is a temporary forfeiture of a title. If this was a career-ending injury or an injury where she was forfeiting the title and she's going to be out for a year, then yes, you make time for her in the ring. But if this is just, I don't know, a sprained ankle or some sort of foot or knee or leg problem that she can rehab and be back in 9 weeks, you don't need confetti and shit for that. Just make the announcement. So I'm hot and cold on it. Like, I understand the complaints. Yeah, she should have been in the ring, but at the same time, I ain't losing too much sleep over it either. We've got Zane G with 2 more. Appreciate that, dude. Have Kevin Owens interfere in the title match. You could do that. Definitely could have Kevin Owens interfere. They've already teased some Kevin Owens and Bloodline stuff this week. So that could definitely be it. Oh, no kidding, David Brown. It's going to be your birthday on Saturday. Well, happy early Castlevania birthday to you, my friend. Let's get into All Out. Time to predict this big show. We have, are you guys ready for this? 14, count them, That's over double the amount of matches on Castlevania. 14 matches, 11 on the main card, 3 on the 0 Hour show, which they have brought back. So the 0 Hour show is going to have 3 matches on that. We have Hook defending the FTW title against Angelo Parker. Hook all the way. Definitely got to go Hook. In that match, we have Pac defending the All-Atlantic Championship against the newly returned Kip Sabian. I would like to think that maybe Kip Sabian will come back and win the title right away, but I don't think so. I'm going to have Pac retain here, and we will see what Kip Sabian does down the line, but he's been out for quite a while, and Pac is a good champion, and I haven't even seen him really defend this thing yet, so I'm not ready to see him drop it already after how hard he worked to get it. So let's have him go over Pac go over Kip Sabian there to retain the All-Atlantic title. And in an interesting match, we have Eddie Kingston taking on Tomohiro Ishii, so the forbidden door has been kicked back open, and Eddie Kingston's planned match with Sammy Guevara that was supposed to happen on the pay-per-view has now been scrapped due to the incident that took place between Sammy and Eddie backstage that Eddie was at fault for, and yet Eddie gets a match on the pay-per-view, kind of, even though it's on 0 Hour, and as of right now, Sammy Guevara isn't booked for anything, but I got a feeling we might see him somewhere. So I guess I'm just going to pick Eddie Kingston to win this match. Maybe Tony Khan wants to punish him a little more and have him take a loss here. I don't know. I would have just picked back up the Kingston and Sammy feud and had Sammy beat him or something. But he's going to be facing Ishii on the 0 Hour show, and I predict that he will win. So you would think that this is going to be a little bit of a pay decrease for Kingston because the payout probably for the Sammy match would have been much greater. But like I said, as of right now, Kingston's on the show and Sammy is not, and that's weird. So those are the 3 matches on the 0 Hour. Main card now. I don't even know where to start in this. We got so much going on. 11 matches on the main card. This is going to be a 5-hour show. I don't know how it's not going to be with this amount of matches. It's crazy. But let's start with the 6-man match. FTR and Wardlow teaming up to take on Jay Lethal and the Motor City Machine Guns heading on over from Impact. I think this is a really cool match, but at the end of the day, I don't think FTR, who's been positioned and booked and presented as the greatest tag team in the world, along with Goldberg 2.0, I can't see them losing at All Out, so I'm going to pick FTR and Wardlow. Now, we did see a funny kind of angle. I don't know where I was going with this. I do. Last night with Andrade when they approached the Dark Order's locker room and Andrade offered Preston Vance or 10 a job. And I guess he said no or whatever because he's kind of injured right now. And then they bring out like a taser gun and like tase Preston or something. I'm pretty sure somebody used it. Was it Jose or not Jose? Who's the guy with Andrade? He used the a taser on Preston. And then I got to thinking about Wardlow. I'm like, they're already doing the Goldberg entrance with Wardlow. He's being booked as an unstoppable beast. The TNT title tends to be hot potatoed around a little bit, so you don't have like super long title runs these days. So if you want to keep moving that belt around, you're going to have to get it off Wardlow somehow. But you're probably not going to want to straight up beat him either. Unless there's somebody else you're trying to get over huge. So what if you give a TNT title shot to Andrade and then Preston, who you can kind of tell they're planting the seeds for him to move on to do something else? Because we've talked about how big that guy is, and he's been photographed without his mask. He's a good-looking dude. They should probably try to do something like that with him at some point, move him on to a better gimmick or a new story or a new character or something. I think this could be the beginning of that. So maybe if Andrade is now trying to recruit 10, if he ever gets a TNT title shot against Wardlow, maybe 10 shows up with a taser gun or a cattle prod like Scott Hall did at Starrcade to Goldberg, and he tasers Wardlow, who then gets hit into the double arm, whatever finisher Andrade has, and Andrade beats Wardlow and wins the TNT title with help from the newly turned heel Preston Vance or something. That could be fun because Andrade, I want you to come work for me or whatever. So that was funny. I think we could maybe see that happen. And like we saw with 10, he's injured, and Hangman Page is going to be taking his place in the Trios final, which we'll talk about here in a minute. So FTR and Wardlow, I think we'll go over in that 6-man. We also have Ricky Starks taking on Powerhouse Hobbs. this one's pretty good because I'm such a huge fan of both, and I don't even know who I would prefer to go over. I can almost make a case for either guy. I think everything that Hobbs has done to Starks even got, what was he, like kidnapped last week or tied up in a chair, and they're punching him and fucking him up and stuff. So I feel like he's due to get one over here on Hobbs at some point. But I also think that this is an issue that's going to continue past this due to the nature of the storyline between the two. So I think you could have Hobbs go over here, big statement win with Hobbs. Maybe Starks has got Hobbs on the ropes a little bit. He's got him beat, but Hobbs has got some help in the form of QT or, I don't know, somebody else to help him defeat Starks. Or, maybe Hobbs is just going to be too big and too powerful for Ricky Starks, and he just flat out beats him clean. I could also see a scenario where Starks maybe catches a quick roll-up on Hobbs, not a distraction roll-up, but maybe just catches him in a weird pinning predicament where he's able to get a quick win. The babyface scoots out of the ring very fast. Referee raises his hand in the aisleway, and he scoots and retreats out of there as a furious Powerhouse Hobbs can't figure out how the hell he just got pinned just then. I could kind of see them doing a victory like that too, and I don't know which one of those two I would prefer, because I really want to see, I don't want to see Hobbs get beat clean by Starks, because I think Hobbs is a powerhouse and should be booked as a monster going forward. And he's much bigger, much stronger than Starks. It feels like he would just be too much for Starks to handle. So I don't know. I went back and forth on this a couple of times, but at the end of the day, I'm going to pick Ricky Starks to win. But I think it might be a deal where he gets a quick win on Hobbs, and we definitely have a return match probably right away on Dynamite or Rampage or something like that will probably have a stip in there somewhere. At some point, these two wrestlers will face each other with a stipulation. So will Jungle Boy and Christian. This one is kind of interesting. These guys have had some pretty good promos leading up to this. This has been a year-long issue between the two. Christian is doing the good veteran thing here, trying to get a young guy over, working with him for a long period of time, hopefully passing some knowledge along to Jungle Boy along the way, maybe even seeing a lot of himself in Jungle Boy. This is a cool storyline because it does, cross over a little bit with real life, and fiction. And I can see Christian, even in real life, behind the scenes, saying, just follow my lead, kid. I got you. We're going to have a great program here, and you can learn as you go. It's just going to be a good learning experience for Jungle Boy to work with a Hall of Fame former World Heavyweight Champion wrestler who can still wrestle and compete at a high level, who's got a ton of experience to pass on, who's wrestled at all sorts of different time periods and popularity levels of the business, and has been in front of some big crowds and some not so big crowds. Christian's a great guy to work with, Jungle Boy. They had the little sit-down interview with Jim Ross last night. At the end of the day, I think I'm going to go Christian in this one. Much like Starks and Hobbs, I think there are more matches to be had in this program, in this feud. So I think with Christian, with all of his experience, I think something's going to happen here. He's going to find a way to win, cheat, dirty trick, or just let his experience beat the younger, less experienced, more naive, so to speak, Jungle Boy. Or this could be Jungle Boy's crowning moment where he becomes a man and actually defeats a major star, solidifying himself as a major player. I just beat Christian Cage clean in the middle, one of the best to ever do it. And I know they have big, high hopes for Jungle Boy. I do too. I still think there's some stuff there that he's lacking in terms of his promos, but I think that Edge and Christian weren't so great at promos. WWE tells the story like the first time Edge opened up his mouth, they were like, ooh, we have something here. I felt the opposite. The very first time Edge spoke, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see why he doesn't talk. I did not think he was that good. And Christian was terrible. The first two times either one of those guys opened up their mouth on WWE TV, it wasn't good at all. I don't know why WWE tells a story like it is. It wasn't. So even they weren't great at promos at first, but they both turned out to be two of the best to ever do it. So I kind of see those comparisons with Jungle Boy. He's not quite there yet on the mic, but he'll get there. And one of the things that really helped Edge and Christian get over that hump on the mic was going heel. Once they went heel, started wearing the outlandish outfits, started doing the 5-second poses. That's when they were coming out of their shells. That's when they were becoming more entertaining to the wrestling audience. And that's when I started taking notice of their promo abilities and how entertaining they really were. And I'm not seeing any of that in Jungle Boy yet, but I also didn't see any of that in Babyface, Edge, and Christian either. So I think maybe this is just all part of Jungle Boy's evolution, and at some point, if Jungle Boy goes heel and he starts coming out there dressed like 2001 Christian or modern-day Joey Janela or just some sort of outlandish, crazy, wild hair with the glasses and, or maybe, Chris Jericho in WCW with the crazy ponytail and just starts being obnoxious, I think that's when Jungle Boy can really start to grasp the mic better. But I think until that happens, I don't know how good he's going to be on the mic. So I do see a lot of comparisons with him and Edge, not only Edge, but also Christian, due to his, not so great mic work now, but I think could be very great in the future. So for Sunday, I'm going to pick Christian to use his heel faculties to find a way to get the job done against Jungle Boy here. Perhaps even enraging Jungle Boy further to where then he requests a big match to main event a Dynamite or perhaps main event a Rampage or maybe even push it to the next pay-per-view, which I think is going to be Full Gear. Maybe even push it to that if you wanted, but I think you could get it done on TV where you just do some crazy stipulation and then Jungle Boy beats Christian in a bloody brawl and that can be Jungle Boy's moment. I just don't think it'll be here at All Out. So I'm going Christian in that match. Chris Jericho, Lionheart, taking on the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. This one will be good. Now, Daniel Garcia is going to play a big role in this. He's been having some issues with Jericho lately on TV. He had the big match with Danielson, 2 out of 3 falls a couple of weeks ago, where he earned Danielson's respect. Then he professed his alliance and allegiance to the JAS, only to prevent Jericho from attacking Danielson later. So you just don't know where Garcia is going to stand. He's probably going to play a role in this. He's either going to swerve everybody and remain aligned with Jericho and help him beat Danielson, or he's going to be the one to perhaps pop Jericho, or Jericho is going to insist that he hits Danielson and Garcia doesn't want to, and then Jericho shoves him, and then Garcia hits him with a punch, and then Danielson locks him in the label lock and Jericho taps or something like that. But honestly, even with outside interference, I don't want to see Jericho beat Danielson here. I'm hoping that Jericho isn't politicking backstage. Oh, it'll be good if I beat him here. Like, no, it won't. Danielson's got to win. I think if you are going to pull the trigger on CM Punk later, I want Danielson to be as strong as possible. He's kind of been in the background a little bit. He needs a big win here and allow him to potentially challenge CM Punk for the title if Punk does, in fact, win. We will see. God, there's so much to think about with the Punk stuff, too, because if he does beat Moxley and he cheats to do it, Moxley's not going to take that shit sitting down. He's going to want a rematch right away. And then you got Danielson in there, too. I would love to see him, heel Punk and babyface Danielson work together. I think the crowd would be so firmly behind Danielson in that situation, and that could be great TV. They've got some potentially great matchups here if they execute everything properly in AEW. Tony Khan, don't fuck this up, dude. You got some possibilities here. We've got another 6-man match. A lot of 6-man matches on the show. It's going to be House of Black versus Miro, Sting, and Darby. Every time Sting wrestles, it's a treat. There were some very flimsy rumors that Malachi Black has requested his release from the company. I don't think that's the case, but if it was going to be the case, and if Malachi Black is going to be leaving, or if he did request a release, or he wants out, or whatever, whenever we get confirmation on any of that, if that was in fact the case, you would think that House of Black would probably lose here, and Malachi would have to wrap up his business with Miro, meaning that Miro would probably beat the hell out of him. But I also think that perhaps House of Black should get this win here. Sting and Darby Allin, of course, haven't been on TV that much. Sting is very old. They don't team with Miro very much. Miro and Darby, of course, had a couple of battles there for the TNT title, I believe, right? Didn't Miro beat Darby for it? So let's go House of Black in this match, I guess. I'm going to go House of Black to somehow win here, maybe allowing Miro to even get more upset and come out and target Malachi on Wednesday or whatnot. But I'm going to pick House of Black in that one. Then we've got a casino ladder match. Here is who we have announced as the participants: Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, Penta, Rey Fenix, Rush, Andrade, Dante Martin, and a Joker. Now, we've seen these casino ladder matches before and casino battle royals before. A lot of times the Jokers are not anybody too huge, but sometimes they are. Now, one of the first names that's going to come to everybody's mind is MJF. Even Meltzer, in the latest Observer, had noted that, or I guess in his latest podcast, had noted that it's likely going to be MJF. That's what he thinks. And that would make sense in terms of getting MJF a title shot, because if you want to go into MJF and CM Punk, MJF quit the company and stormed out. It's going to be hard to justify a championship match for him when he comes back, unless he says he negotiated that with Tony Khan or whatever. He's going to have to just like come out as the Joker and win the championship match that way. But at the same time, I also think that there's enough story there with MJF that when he came back, you could just give him a title shot some other way, because just last night, Jon Moxley had an open contract for anybody to sign it. So if MJF was going to make some sort of a big return in AEW, he should have scurried out there right then and signed that contract. And I also just don't think that these casino ladder matches would really be the right place for MJF based on the way he left. When he cut that promo and stormed out of the company, I'm bringing him back in some sort of a segment with Moxley or Punk or whoever the AEW champion is. After he's gone this long and you've gone so out of your way to run this angle to where not even the fans really know what the true story here is, with all this bad blood and this turmoil behind the scenes. And then when he comes back, it's the casino ladder match. So I'm going no on MJF on the casino ladder match. I think there's plenty of other ways to get MJF back in other than this. Meltzer thinks this is the only way to justify a championship match for MJF, but I don't. I can also see MJF coming back and say, one of the conditions to me coming back was Tony Khan has to give me a championship match. That's literally all you have to say. You do not need a casino ladder match to accomplish that. So you know who I'm going to have win the casino ladder match? Sammy Guevara. What sense would it make for a situation to arise between him and Eddie Kingston where Eddie Kingston is in the wrong, Pie faces him, gets suspended, and then comes back and he's got a match on the card and Sammy Guevara does not? That's pretty incredible to me. I can't think of anybody else really who's out there free agent-wise who would be a good pick to be the Joker, because you just had Morrissey debut for AEW last night. So if it was going to be some big free agent like him, I would just put him in the casino battle royal. Maybe they don't want to, maybe Morrissey is there to stay now, so they want to build him up. They don't want to beat him right away. I basically think whoever wins this casino ladder match is not going to win the AEW title. So if you have Sammy Guevara come out as the Joker, he wins, ton of heat from the crowd. He's making out with Ty Mello at the end of it. And then you have him, then you put him in the match in a couple of weeks, probably on Dynamite. That's usually when these championship matches happen with these casino things. It usually just happens on TV, and it's not part of a big angle, and you rarely see championship title changes in these situations, right? Maybe you did with Hangman. Did we see it with Hangman? We probably did. So in most cases, it feels like it's not usually set up to have a title change. It's usually set up to give somebody who doesn't normally get a title shot, which is why I think Phoenix or Dante Martin could also be great picks to win this, because it would give you a nice, fun, exciting championship match on TV that neither of these guys would assume they would get under normal circumstances. But if you did Sammy, the only issue with that is Sammy's a big heel. He's going to be viewed as a disappointment as the Joker because he currently works there and everybody thinks the Joker's got to be some new person. So if he comes out, the fans are going to hate that. And then if he wins, they're going to hate it even more. And then when he kisses Ty Mello at the end of it, they're really going to hate it. So I think that could be fun. Now, the only problem with this is that it usually results in a title match pretty quickly after the pay-per-view, which meaning like in a couple of weeks. So if CM Punk turns heel or something like that and he wins the title as a heel, then it's going to be heel Sammy Guevara against heel CM Punk. That would be weird. But if Punk or Moxley leave All Out as the champion and they are a babyface, then Sammy Guevara is going to have to face that babyface champion and get the shit kicked out of him, much to the delight of all of the members of the Dynamite audience. So I'm going to pick Sammy Guevara as the Joker and to win the casino ladder match. Sammy's got to be on here somewhere. He's got to be on this card somewhere. It's not fair for him to be off and Kingston to be on. So I think Sammy wins the casino, and he just gets a random title match on TV in the future that he loses. I think that would be fun. Tag team titles also on the line. Swerve and Our Glory taking on the Acclaimed, who have recently aligned with Big Daddy Ass, or whatever Billy Gunn is referring to himself as. As much as I would like to see the Acclaimed be champions one day, I think what they're doing with the Ass Boys and the Ass Club and the Scissor Me's and all that is very fun. It's organically over and it's entertaining. But I don't know if this is where I'm belting them up. I'm belting them up on a main event of Rampage or a main event of Dynamite or something like that. Here in the middle of a 14-match card, this match feels more like a buffer than a real legit championship match. I'm happy that all of these men have spots on the pay-per-view, but not expecting a title change here. So I'm going to go with Lee and Strickland to retain the AEW titles over the Acclaimed and maybe pick this thing back up later on. Fatal 4-way for the interim AEW Women's Championship. Of course, we know Thunder Rosa had to forfeit the title last week, now making the championship match a fatal 4-way for an interim championship. It's going to be Britt Baker teaming up with her girl, Jamie Hayter, against Hikaru Shida and Toni Storm. So it'll be the four of them. All four of these women had a tag team match last night. It was Britt and Hayter against Storm and Shida. At the end of the day here, I just don't know how you don't go with Toni Storm. She was basically the pick to begin with. They were going to go with Toni Storm in the match with Thunder Rosa, according to the various news reports. She was booked to go over here. I wouldn't change that direction. I think you can have a seamless transition here by still putting the belt on Storm in this fatal 4-way, and then when Thunder Rosa comes back, you have your match all set right there. Britt has already been made. I really do like Jamie Hayter. I wouldn't hate it if she won here, no pun intended, but I really think Storm is the more marketable and bigger opportunity for you to get somebody that rivals Britt Baker on your roster. You need more than one Britt. That's why I thought if Sasha Banks left WWE, she'd be an excellent addition to get some cornerstone gems, to get those foundations in your women's division. Nothing against Hikaru Shida, nothing against Nyla Rose, nothing against Jamie Hayter, nothing against Thunder Rosa. It's just... You just need somebody else there, and I think Toni Storm is that person. And if you can get Britt and you can get Toni and Thunder Rosa maintained, and you can put somebody else in the other corner, and you can get that foundation, you can get those Beckys, those Baileys, those Charlottes, you can get that on your own roster and really grow it. I think you can have an opportunity here to do it with Toni Storm, even when Thunder Rosa comes back. I hope Toni Storm beats her. I think Toni Storm should have a nice little run here, and you should try to establish her. And then you can have a match with Britt Baker. I think Britt is going to have to win that championship back at some point as well, really soon. Early next year is kind of my guess. I don't know, but I think you should try to avoid making Britt your Charlotte. You can still have Britt have multiple title runs. I think Britt will be a 4-time minimum AEW World Champion, but I don't want them to Charlotte her. So I think that with everything going on with Hayter, you can have some dissension there, or, maybe Hayter breaks up a pin and Britt is pissed, and while the two of them are arguing, Storm is able to roll up Shida and win the title or something like that. I can kind of see a scenario like that playing out, but the cool thing about a match like this is when I look at everybody here, and we can debate whether or not the interim title thing is a good idea or something that AEW wants to do. I think it's fine because we also, as fans, all poke fun and make a lot of jokes about how many times Vacant has held championships in wrestling. So the fact that AEW is trying to avoid Vacant building his resume, doing the interim thing, at the end of the day, who cares? But when I look at the match and I look at the four women, I'm cool with whoever comes out of this. I like Shida. I like them all. I would love for them just to randomly put the belt on Hayter. That would make Britt Baker very uncomfortable. That would give you a Triple H, Randy Orton, Evolution 2004 type of deal when Randy beat Benoit for the title. And maybe Baker... Although Hayter's a pretty big girl. I don't know if Rebel could lift Hayter up on her shoulders, but if she could, and then Britt can kind of do the thumbs up, thumbs down thing on Dynamite, that might be kind of fun. Shida is maybe the only one I'd be the least interested in, only because she's been champion before. She's currently a champion in some women's promotion over in Japan right now. Everybody loves Shida, but much like Baker, she's been established. So, in my mind, Storm or Hayter would be the most fun to win this thing. But we're going Toni Storm to win the interim AEW women's title on Sunday. The trios final is set. At least it's sort of set. Kenny Omega and the Bucks beat Will Ospreay and Aussie Open last night. They will face the winner of the Rampage finals, which is going to be the Dark Order taking on Best Friends tomorrow night. Now, I don't know how you don't have Dark Order win this thing. They are going to beat Best Friends because we saw Adam Page agree to be the partner of the Dark Order, was last week or whatever. So, or was it last night? When did that happen? It was recently. So Page is now set to join the Dark Order, which means we knew we had to see Kenny and the Bucks win last night. Hopefully on Rampage, Dark Order and Page will be best friends. I'm sure they will. Setting up a really interesting Dark Order and Page versus the Bucks and Kenny Omega Trios Championship final at the pay-per-view, and that's what I'm going to assume the match is. I'm going to look ahead and predict Dark Order wins tomorrow, and I'm going with Bucks and Kenny versus Dark Order and Hangman as the match tomorrow. So if that is the match, like I'm assuming it will be, I kind of think it could go either way. I don't know how you create Trios titles, put Bucks and Kenny on the same team, and not have them win those Trios titles, not have them be the inaugural champions. They're three executives in the company. That's who I would begin my Trios history with. But AEW likes to swerve us. They don't go totally by the book. We just saw WWE do the same thing on Monday when we thought one team was going to win and the other one did instead. So I also think there's a big story to be told here for the Dark Order. Hangman Page finally coming through for them. They've had a really weird relationship. Hangman is devoted to them and he loves them and he appreciates them, but they've kind of had some on-again, off-again stuff as well. So Hangman joining up with them, helping them win, giving them some championships, it would feel like he gave that to them. It was like his thank you for being so loyal to me. And I think that would in itself would make a really good story and a feel-good story of Hangman doing that for his buddies. But who's on the other side of the ring against him? His other buddies, Kenny Omega, the guy that he beat on the boat. I was there when him and Kenny Omega won the tag team titles from SCU on the Jericho Cruise, and all the history he has with the Bucks and Kenny and all the shit that they've done together. Is there going to be a betrayal? Is Hangman going to betray the Dark Order and join up with the Elite? I don't think he is, because it's not a four-way championship, it's a trios championship. So if he betrayed them, or if maybe clotheslined John Silver and allowed Kenny Omega to pin him or something like that, then you got a heel Hangman Page. I think the fans kind of want to be on Hangman Page's side right now, especially if we do get some sort of CM Punk heel turn in the main event. I don't want a heel Hangman Page. I want a babyface Hangman Page. So I'm torn on this. I think the easy pick here, the obvious pick, is Kenny and the Bucks. Kenny just came back. He's teamed up with the Bucks. These three guys know each other very well. I can't think of a better trio to be the inaugural champions than those guys. But what a great story. If it turns out to be the Dark Order, I don't know the contract status of Reynolds and Silver and how long Tony Khan keeps them around based on how big the roster is growing. So I don't know if Tony Khan sees long-term future in those two guys. So having those two guys being the inaugural champions, I don't know. But I would really like to see it. I would really like to see Hangman Page and Dark Order win and be the inaugural trios champions. I think that would be a great moment for Hangman to see the three of them hug. Would be great. To watch the Bucks and Kenny have to watch all this go down would also be great. And I think it might even be greater than Kenny and the Bucks winning the titles themselves. So I'm going out on a long limb, way out on that branch. And it's a flimsy branch too. It's going to snap. But I'm going with Hangman Page, Dark Order, to win the trios titles in the tournament final. I want him to do it. I think it would create a great moment. It would be awesome. I think the Bucks and Kenny are too predictable. I would do Hangman and Dark Order first, and then have the Bucks and Kenny beat them for the titles. That's what I would do. So down the road, on TV or something. Because much like the TNT title, much like a lot of these belts, I don't think we're going to have like 6, 7, 8 month long trios champions. These belts, I think, are going to be passed around quite frequently, and I think Page and Dark Order could easily hold those titles first and make it believable. Plus, it would put the third championship belt now on Hangman Page. And how many who's leading in championships in AEW in terms of holding multiples? Kenny has hold 2. Kenny and Hangman are tied, right, with the tag and the world title. They've both held them, so this would put one of those two above the other in terms of overall championships held in the company. And I think Hangman now holding 3 championships in the company, 3 different championships, would look good on Hangman's resume, the guy that I consider to be AEW's Randy Orton. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. All right, what else we got? We have, I almost forgot about Jade Cargill defending the TBS title against Athena. Man, I like Athena. Athena's another one of those women that I think really makes the women's division look good. So does Jade Cargill. I kind of like they have a TBS division and a world title division, and I think Athena could easily get into the world title division as well. But Jade Cargill is undefeated, and Jade Cargill has had a magnificent run in the company, not only with her undefeated streak, but also with the TBS title. When that comes to an end, I've been talking about this for 10 years on this channel. When something like that comes to an end, I, as a fan, am looking for that to happen on a much bigger stage. Not a bigger stage than All Out, a much more independent stage. Not on a show with 14 matches on it, to where it could be forgotten, lost in the shuffle. If this is the 3rd match and Jade Cargill loses, we're all going to be like, holy shit, Jade Cargill loses. But literally 20 minutes later, we're going to forget about it because we have 9 other matches to get through, including some pretty big ones. So I don't think it matters where you place this match on the card. I don't think it's the right place for Athena to win the TBS title. I'm having Athena. Like, AEW cares a lot about their TV shows. They provide great AEW Dynamites basically every week. Rampages are hit or miss, but most of the time they're good. And you have a lot of championship matches on both of those shows. So I would take advantage of that situation instead of ending Jade's run on a show that's filled with so much other stuff, and there's going to be a lot of other things dominating the headlines. I would have Jade's victory come in the middle of the week when AEW doesn't have a pay-per-view, when WWE doesn't have a pay-per-view, because you got to think about that too. If Drew McIntyre wins the WWE title on Saturday, CM Punk wins the title in the main event, and Athena wins the TBS title, is anybody going to give a fuck? Not, you're going to have ruined beating Jade. So I'm not beating her here. I think Jade Cargill, whether she needs help from the baddies or whatever, she does not drop the title here to Athena, and Jade Cargill walks out as champion, and I'm going to predict her to beat Athena and retain the TBS title. I really don't want to see a DQ here or anything like that. I can see them doing that so they can have a return match. I get that, but I still think Jade needs to get the victory, even if it's a DQ victory. Get Jade's hand raised, and if you insist on still beating her for that title, great. Just do it in the main event on one of your TV shows. That way it has a stage that has the most amount of attention on it. You know what I mean? So Jade all the way in that match. And finally, AEW Championship on the line. Jon Moxley defending against CM Punk. We talked in the beginning of the podcast about how this was all set up last night on Dynamite with Ace Steel cutting that promo, dropping the F-bomb, slapping some sense literally into CM Punk. He was crying and looked like he was about to retire, and he was a broken, defeated man 1 minute, and the minute he was bitch slapped, he had woke up and he was CM Punk from 2011. It was crazy, and it was a great promo by both Mox and Punk last night. Great way to set it up. My only issue is I wish the Punk stuff would have closed the show. It allowed Moxley to come get one more last word in, but the way Punk was talking on the balcony with all those fans behind him, holy shit, if you would have faded to black and done the little watermark in the corner as Punk was celebrating in the middle of his Chicago fans, that would have been a pretty good way to end the show. So looking at what they've done here, CM Punk last night claiming that his foot was 100%. How could it be after it basically fell off the week before? And when you combine that with the tear that Jon Moxley is on, how unstoppable he's been, how is CM Punk going to legitimately beat this guy in a fight? Are they really going to do this story? I know it's professional wrestling and you can write these big grand stories, but I would almost prefer to keep things more realistic. And I even mentioned this last week. What if, and I know a lot of fans would freak out at this and say that it doesn't make sense, but what they mean is that it wouldn't make sense for pro wrestling. Because in pro wrestling, you're supposed to get more dramatic shit, and you're not supposed to get ripped off with 30-second matches and stuff. But what if Moxley just goes out there and does it to Punk again? Exact same match, maybe even a little bit shorter. Bell rings. Moxley immediately walks right up to Punk, kicks him right in his foot, takes him down, puts him in the ankle lock, slams some elbows across his neck. Punk doesn't even know where the fuck he is. Boom, bam, paradigm shift. 1, 2, 3. The match is over in 20 seconds. Wild thing plays. Moxley celebrates with the title. Chicago doesn't know what to think. They don't know if they should cheer. They don't know if they should boo. They're fucking shocked. And then in from behind slips MJF, attacks Moxley from behind, beats him down, holds up the title as the show goes off the air. Maybe you do something like that. But in the end, the way they're setting all this up, it feels like they're going to want to do the CM Punk come from behind, babyface type of victory. But even in Chicago, I don't know if that's the right call. I think CM Punk fighting and scratching and clawing his way from underneath an impossible situation to overcome all the odds and beat Jon Moxley clean in the middle as a babyface is almost too hard to believe based on CM Punk's condition. I'd like to see maybe CM Punk put up more of a fight where he actually isn't getting himself embarrassed this time by Jon Moxley, but still realizing that Jon Moxley is still way too strong. He's dominating him. At some point in the match, Punk undergoes this change. I can't beat him. I can't beat him. I'm in front of Chicago. I don't want to get embarrassed in front of my own crowd. I have no way out of this other than to cheat. And then maybe he pulls out some brass knucks. Maybe he gets a chair. I don't know what. Maybe Ace Steel helps him out, tosses something into the ring for him. Although the way Steel was motivating him, I would think that a CM Punk turn would upset Ace Steel. I can see CM Punk turning heel and then attacking Ace Steel on TV the same way Stone Cold Steve Austin attacked Jim Ross after he turned heel. Remember that? So maybe they do that type of deal. But I think at some point in the match, it's going to have to become apparent to Punk that there is no way out of this. And the only way for him to win is to cheat. He does, however that may be, whether it's with help or whatever. He cheats. He wins the title. Crowd doesn't know what to make of it, and then he gets on the mic. Don't act like you wouldn't do the same thing. Don't forget, he dropped that tease last night in his promo when he called that guy in the front row a fat piece of shit, who according, or maybe not fat piece of shit, called him a fat guy who would never get laid. Whatever he said to him, you know, like that's a hometown guy there that you said that to. Eddie Kingston was suspended for reacting to being called a fat piece of shit. So the fact that CM Punk is saying that to this guy who apparently was chanting Colt Cabana at him or something like that, I mean, there are seeds being planted there for a CM Punk heel turn. So if he wins and the crowd doesn't like it and CM Punk's like, oh, you don't like this? And maybe he gets on the mic and he just destroys Chicago. I never liked you or whatever. I mean, I think Chicago is a cool enough town to where he's probably one of the few hometown boys that could do this, and the crowd would really, really be pissed. I think they would react, they would be booing, but at the end of the day, I don't think they would be truly offended at heart, because I think the Chicago crowd could appreciate a wrestling promoter having the balls to turn a guy that is synonymous with Chicago heel in his own town. And it didn't work out so well with WWE when they tried that with Austin at WrestleMania 17 in Houston, because the fans didn't care. The fans didn't think Austin turned heel. The fans thought Vince McMahon turned face. That's how over Austin was. But that's not the same situation. There's a completely different situation. So I think it would be worth the risk to try to do something like that. And I think that on Sunday, if we see CM Punk beat Jon Moxley completely clean, to me, that's going to be a disappointment. I'm fine with Punk winning the title. As a matter of fact, you want my prediction? I predict that CM Punk wins the title. But I predict that he does so by turning heel. It's the only way that makes sense. Unless Moxley squashes him and Punk leaves the company or something. You know, aside from that, I think that it's going to be about CM Punk winning the championship. But I believe you have to do a heel turn. Insisting that it needs to be babyface Punk overcoming the odds gives me way too many John Cena versus the Nexus vibes in WWE, and I don't want Tony Khan to get his head set quite in those ways. Like, if he thinks this is the only way to do it, or if this is what he wants to do, I understand. You've told the story really well, but I think at the end of the day, the fans aren't going to love that. Even in Chicago, I'm not sure if they're going to. Well, in Chicago, I think they will. I think in Chicago, even if Punk wins clean, the crowd's going to cheer. They're going to go nuts for him. I think the audience at home is going to be, well, what the hell happened to Moxley? Was he drunk again? Like, what? How did he lose that? He was so unstoppable. He was so unstoppable. How did you lose to a one-legged, gimpy little fuck? I don't know how they're going to tell that story. That's why I think CM Punk's got to go heel. So we will see. And if he does turn heel, like I said, if he turns heel and he cheats to beat Jon Moxley, you think Moxley takes that shit sitting down? They're going to have to do an injury angle to keep him off TV if he wants to take that shit sitting down. That's the only way that's going to happen. Otherwise, Moxley's going to be right there out first thing on Dynamite, demanding a rematch right away. CM Punk, get your little Pepsi ass out here so I can kick the crap out of you. Let's do it right now. He's not going to just sit back in catering and have a salad and wait for his turn. No, Moxley's going to be in the ring when Dynamite starts, demanding the Pepsi man gets his ass out there. So the chick magnet's got to be ready for anything in that situation. That's why I think that the Mox and Punk thing will have to continue if Punk wins this title here. And then if you do bring MJF back, you could do it all out. AEW is pretty good at overbooking things. A lot of times when you think something's over, more shit happens. So after you do a big CM Punk heel turn and Moxley is retreated or Moxley's injured and Punk is cutting a scathing promo on the fans, hell, maybe the lights go out, they come back up, and MJF is right there, and he DDTs or pile drives CM Punk, and he holds the title over the new champion's body as the show goes off the air. I wouldn't put that past him either. But at the end of the day, I'm picking CM Punk to win the AEW title on Sunday. So just to recap, I've got FTR and Wardlow over Lethal and the Motor City Machine Guns, Ricky Starks over Powerhouse Hobbs, Christian over Jungle Boy, Danielson over Lionheart, Chris Jericho, House of Black over Miro, Sting, and Darby. I've got Sammy Guevara finding his way into that casino ladder match as the Joker and winning it. I've got Swerve in Our Glory over the Acclaimed. I've got Tony Storm winning the interim AEW women's title from Hayter, Britt, and Sheeta. Dark Order and Hangman in the upset win over the Bucks and Kenny for the Trios Championship final. They have to win tomorrow night on Rampage first, but I predict they will, and they will also win on Sunday. I've picked Jade Cargill to retain the TBS title over Athena, and CM Punk to beat Jon Moxley for the AEW title in the main event. By the way, 0 hour recap, Pac over Kip Sabian, Hook over Angelo Parker, and Eddie Kingston over Tomohiro Ishii. There you go. There is your double or nothing predictions. Just in the nick of time, because this is when I have to be signing off. So I'm going to cruise over here to the chat. Thank you moderators for, I just saw Denise Salcedo mention something about all the porn bots lately around YouTube. So I guess this might be some of them. Thank you for handling those, guys. I'll go through and delete some of them. All right, I don't think we're missing any super chats, so that's good. What's going on, Yessie? Good to see you. Good to see you, Chiro, as well. Right on. Everybody else that has chimed in. Maddie is here as well. Nova. All of you guys that have been coming in as I was going through those predictions. I appreciate you being here. That is going to wrap it up for today. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Thursday night and Friday. Don't forget Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, depending on where you live. We will be up here following Clash at the Castle for a full show review. The link is already on the channel right now, and the link is in the description below if you would like to save that for Saturday. And the link to AEW's All Out review is up as well. So I'm looking forward to a really fun weekend of wrestling. It should be a hoot. 2 massive shows and 2 very big streams to talk about stuff. So get ready for a lot of fun stuff on the Good Mike Work Commentaries channel. Thank you very much for being here today. Have a good rest of your evening, and I will catch you Saturday immediately.